And joining us right now, the Grand Poobah over there at the Weekly Standard, the man who
really
started
is.
that great magazine. Yeah, absolutely.
We should just, under that the little title that you see on the TV screen,
Grand Poobah.
Should just say Grand Poobah.
Yeah, with a fez. He should wear a fez.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, he and Fred Barnes. He's Bill Kristol. He joins us now. Good morning, Bill Kristol.
You guys are full of useful advice, I'll tell ABC that next time I'm on Stephanopoulos' show. I think the fez would look good. Grand Poobah is appropriate. Maybe His Magnificence, the Grand Poobah.
Yeah, if you get one of those fezzes,
His Royal and Supreme Excellency, the Grand Poobah.
If you get one of those fezzes, then you have to get on those little motorcycles that the Shriners drive at our parades. Yeah.
I think Hayes needs to start kowtowing when you walk into the room now when you go to the office.
You can tell him that.
Yeah, I will. Listen, speaking of people with useful information, here's our Secretary of State, John Kerry, yesterday.
This is a fight that belongs to the Iraqis. That is exactly what the President and the world decided some time ago when we left Iraq. So we are not obviously contemplating returning. We're not contemplating putting boots on the ground.
Well, listen, Bill Kristol, I think that everybody knows, I know for sure that you are a passionate supporter of our action in Iraq. And now seeing what is happening in that nation, I wonder, I saw that you got into a heated exchange on it yesterday on ABC's This Week. What are we to do at this point, given the fact that it looks as though Al-Qaeda and forces associated with Al-Qaeda is back in that country and really about to overrun it?
Well, I think we're seeing the consequences of the president's really rash and irresponsible decision to just pull out in 2011 without leaving some basic force there that could have helped the government maintain a reasonable amount of stability.
And if I can just remind people, because a lot of people say, well, listen, he said he was going to pull out, but when he ran in 2008, he said he would do it in a reasonable, responsible way. He promised the American people that he would not just leave the Iraqi people abandoned.
Right, and there was a status of forces agreement to be negotiated. The negotiations fell apart. Maliki isn't an easy guy to negotiate with, but so we're paying the price for that. It's extremely depressing, I think, just as an American, and I think one of the things that's sort of infuriating about Secretary Kerry's attitude and others is this kind of complacent almost, well, hey, it's not our business. I mean, an awful lot of Americans died in Fallujah and Ramadi and the fight in Iraq, and whatever one's view on the war in the first place, of course, Kerry voted for it, as did Hillary Clinton and many other Democrats.
He voted for it and ran against it.
Exactly, sort of, in 2004, right? Whatever, one's view on the war in the first place, just having this kind of just saying, well, it's up to the Iraqis and it means nothing to us is a little strange, really. Look, I don't know what we can do at this point. We should help the Iraqi government fight again and help the responsible Sunnis. But again, that requires having more of a presence there. There are Sunni tribesmen who fought with us and fought against Al-Qaeda and don't want a Shia, death squad type government. Those guys are now getting pinched between Al-Qaeda on the one hand and the Shia government of Maliki on the other. It's very much like in Syria. If you don't help your friends, and if bad guys help their friends, in Syria, where there once was a responsible, serious, impressive, brave opposition that took to the streets to try for freedom for the Syrian people, now they're getting crushed between Al-Qaeda on the one hand and Assad on the other. So I think what's happening throughout the Middle East is what happens when the U.S. withdraws. And it's really worrisome. I mean, I really think I've talked to many people from the region, people of different points of view, really, people who would have done different things 10 years ago, perhaps. But to let this chaos just spread in this way, Americans can tell themselves that we don't get involved, we don't need to get involved, but eventually it leads to really bad things, not just for people in the region, but for us, I'm afraid.
The Congress is coming back and getting busy, and it looks like the Democrats are coming back with a message that says, Republicans don't care about people in need. They don't care about poor people. Well, they're going to be against, raising the minimum wage. They're going to be against extending the unemployment benefits. They're going to be against, all the things that we as Democrats stand for, and therefore they're bad people. That's going to be their message. What should Republicans do as that message comes from the left?
I think they shouldn't be too defensive. The biggest Republican mistake is always to say, "Oh no, we don't dislike poor people." That's not a very effective response. Obviously, it's true, and they need to say that first. But they then need to say, "Here's our economic growth agenda." No one thinks extending unemployment insurance benefits is good for employment. It's good for the economy. It's a compassionate thing to do in some circumstances, but it becomes counterproductive in others. Raising the minimum wage will cost jobs, not create jobs. And Republicans need to say, if you want to help the economy, let's get rid of Obamacare. Let's get rid of these incredibly onerous EPA regulations.
Let's open the Keystone Pipeline. You want to help unemployment, let's get some jobs there.
Let's have a pro-growth economy and economic policies and that will help everyone. So I think you only beat the fairness argument with a growth argument. You don't beat it by saying, oh, we're fair too.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, there's breaking news this morning regarding Liz Cheney. She apparently is pulling out of that Senate race she's in, and she says, and it sort of raises more questions than it answers, she says she's doing so because there are serious health issues in her family. What are you hearing about this?
I mean, I talked to someone close to her last night who said that that was the case and that she was going to pull out, and I think that's true, honestly, that there's some issues in her family, and she doesn't want to, impose on her family, the media scrutiny in terms of private health issues. So I think that's why she's getting out. I haven't spoken with her, though. So I think, it doesn't change the balance of power in the Senate. Obviously, Enzi will get reelected, I think, in Wyoming. I think the other news, I think Ed Gillespie in Virginia, a local story.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's
How do you
going
like
to get,
that race, Gillespie versus Warner?
I love the idea of a Gillespie-Warner race. I wrote something on election night when Cuccinelli was losing, and it turned out Obenchain was going to lose, too. I said it struck me that people were drawing the wrong conclusion from this race. Despite a bad campaign, despite a fractured Republican Party in Virginia, they got within 2 points of McAuliffe, within 0.001% of in the AG race, and that a strong candidate could, I think, take on Warner. Warner is not as strong as people think. People kind of vaguely like him, but he hasn't done anything in the Senate. He was the 60th vote for Obamacare. He voted consistently as a liberal.
And there's a YouTube of him out there talking to his constituents saying, don't worry, if you like the insurance you have now, you can keep it.
That's right.
I think Gillespie-Warner becomes, a huge race, and also sends a national signal, which is even Warner, who is considered one of the stronger Democratic incumbents, is thought to be vulnerable, not by some guy who's doing this on a lark, throwing his hat in the ring, has nothing to lose, by a very serious guy who wouldn't do this unless he thinks he can win. And if Gillespie runs in Virginia, if Scott Brown runs in New Hampshire against Jeanne Shaheen, the Democratic incumbent there, it tells me that two very smart and seasoned people like Gillespie and Scott Brown think this could be a huge Republican year.
All right, Grand Poobah, His Excellency Bill Kristol from the Weekly Standard. Thanks for joining us. Kristol is all in for Ed Gillespie.
Long may he reign.
Yes.
The Grand Poobah.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Bill, thanks a lot.